All right, and it's recording. In this video, we're gonna grow the business of AppSumo. I'm Jeremy, founder of QuickMail.io.
Hey, and this is Jack, guy at salesbread.com, lead gen agency. In case you don't want to do it yourself or hire somebody, we can help you get about a lead a day. Hey, Jeremy.
Hey, you're gonna kill me. I still forgot to work on my one-liner for QuickMail, but it's a cool email software that you guys can use to grow your business with cold outreach. And speaking of which, so today the episode is about growth chat. So we decided to pick up AppSumo. Look at you with your lycra, so funny. No product placement yet on our podcast, so if you're interested. Anyway, we are talking about an 8-figure business already well established into the entrepreneur world, proposing great lifetime deals of super cool products to their huge audience. I think they got, at least that's what they said when they outreach to me, they got more than 800,000 potential buyers in the entrepreneur space. So we're talking about a well-established business operating at scale already. So, you know, what happened if Noah Kagan or whoever is running the business now comes to us and say, hey, can you guys grow our company? What would we do? And I think that's an interesting challenge because most of the time when we're looking at growth chat is people struggling to actually, you know, make it work. And here we're like, something already proven working.
So if you're dealing with a well-established company, you have to be very careful about how you do outreach because it can tarnish a brand that has been chugging along nicely for a while. So unlike a startup, if you're doing this with a well-established brand, be very careful because I think it was Dan Martell. He mentioned he's like, do stuff early on that you couldn't get away with later, which
fair point.
I mean, sounds kind of aggressive, but I think his point was test things, experiment. And AppSumo can't really do that in a lot of ways that a startup could. So we need to take that in consideration. It's also a double-sided business.
That's right. Double-sided market. There is on one side the entrepreneur willing to buy something, and on the other side the seller. You know, SaaS businesses mostly willing to sell their product.
Right. So I think we're going to tackle both sides, growing both sides, because they make money as they grow the buyer side, and they make money as they grow the seller side, I guess.
Yeah, you can't have, you know, 1 million people just buying potentially one product every 3 months. Doesn't work.
True. So yeah, very true. Okay, so hopefully having two sides to this growth chat should bring a little bit more to the table. So I'm guessing there should be some more takeaways than most growth chats will, because it's essentially 2 for 1.
Well, I'm not totally sure. It could be that we end up concluding that for the buyer side, it's probably, you know, best that they keep on the inbound and virality that they put in. Like, you know, they're doing giveaway, like they gave the Tesla.
Let's just get right into it. I feel like
let's go for it. Yeah. After all, what do you do?
So let's start with that buyer side.
Okay.
Because I have a bit of an idea how I could use outbound to grow that a little bit. And I'm going to pull a takeaway I got from Benji Graham. He's at growandconvert.com. So shout out Benji. He used an interesting tactic to get exposure with influencers. And let's come back to the AppSumo example here. Who's an influencer that is relevant to them? I would imagine somebody within startups, right? Somebody who has an audience of other startup-minded people. That's probably pretty darn close to what they're trying to attract.
Yep.
Okay. So something Benji mentioned on our show episodes back now, but he said he would reach out to influencers, do an interview series with them, make them look really sharp and edit the video well, make an article that goes along with it. And then somewhere along the way, they would share it back to that influencer, say, hey, the interview came out. If you like it, would would you be comfortable sharing it? It would really be great to get like a plug, or I'm not even sure if that part needed to be said, because if the interview really made them look great, he found that he got a lot of exposure from people resharing the thing that he created and mentioning him. And it was kind of a really, I don't know, straightforward way to get exposure with that particular audience or audiences. So I would do an outbound campaign where I'd build a list of these influencers. And by the way, just for fun, I use a tool. I'm not quite sure if I want to mention it because the jury's still out if I like it or not, but it compiles a list of influencers on Twitter or Instagram. And I typed in startups and I filtered by, minimum 500,000 followers. And there's like 8,000 people that match. So there's no shortage. And you can export that list, find the email addresses, and then basically say, hey, do you want to be part of our interview series? And since it's BuzzSumo, they're probably going to know the company already since they're in the startup space. So that's
AppSumo, not BuzzSumo.
What do I know? You can tell what tool I'm using, maybe. Anyways, what do you think, Jeremy? Would that work?
Yeah, I have a similar idea, because one thing we have to think is, like, with 800,000, people, if you want to grow this number, you're going to have to grow by a lot more user if you actually want to make any dent in, or any size, move the needle, basically. And so at this stage, I don't think you can.
Isn't 100,000 extra still 100,000 extra?
Oh yeah, it is. But that's what I mean. It's like, if a tactic is bringing, 5,000 more people, it's just like, yeah, great. And I think this is an interesting thing. We don't actually, I wouldn't recommend at this size, at least, to go outreach on the end user anymore. It's like, for me, it's like, if you want to be like the next 800,000 people, and then let's say you contact 500 every day of the whole year, and the 500 actually do subscribe to your list, you can double and have a 1.6 million in about 4 years. So, that will take time. So going for outreach for the end user anymore, I don't think this is a strategy you can use anymore at this size.
Agreed.
Yeah. So influencer is the next best road. It's like, how could I actually contact who suddenly will give me like 5,000 or whatever? And something came to mind is still reaching out to influencers, but I think a lot of their efforts been on YouTube lately. Or at least Noah actually did, put a lot of emphasis on his channel. But one thing that, if he's so bullish about, YouTube for his sort of like ecosphere, I would say, then in this case, why not sponsoring a lot of YouTubers who actually communicate to their own sort of fan base that are entrepreneurs? Like, I'm thinking, courses that, help you build your business, or all those sort of courses. And it's like Skillshare, they are doing that with a lot of YouTubes. This video is sponsored by Skillshare, by the way. And the number one place for,
right.
No, it's not, but you see the idea. And I see that a lot with Squarespace, Skillshare, and all those other things. Why not, like, this video is sponsored by AppSumo, the number one place where you can find the great tools. By the way, this tool was on promotion, or this tool is just right about on promotion right now. So why don't they use some sort of affiliates in that sense? So like double benefit. You get your influencer to not only talk to to your group, but instead of paying them, you can give them a kickback for, those sort of thing. I would basically.
Wow, wait a minute. So you're saying find a YouTube influencer, a YouTuber.
Yeah.
Who has an audience interested in software, right?
No, or even starting a business, because that's what the ecosystem is.
Right, right. And then you would say, not only do we want to sponsor you, but hey, make a video about this new product that is now on our offer. And so you're killing two birds with one stone.
Exactly.
Right?
Because they probably know like 3 months in advance what's going to be, coming up. And so they could even like plan it and say, hey, if you bring back this video at this time, and that could be starting being useful with even like 50,000, subscribers or some stuff like that. You don't have to have the big, massive YouTuber, audience. So something I would consider, I think,
would you
for outreach.
Yeah. So would you just say like, hey, we're going to trade a mention or a specific video in exchange for money? It's basically like a very straightforward sponsorship.
Yeah, it could be either that or the affiliate type of thing, or maybe both. The affiliate will be like, it's like AppSumo slash whatever. Like for us, it'll be like, the cold outreach podcast kind of thing. And then if you bring them there, people there, you got like maybe a $6 as introduction for a new user, for example. So that way they give them an incentive to go to this page, and they have access to then.
Cool.
Then they can figure out like how much this channel can, bring back, because it's also the long tail. Like if that channel suddenly blew up, then people will still look at, or YouTube will still propose some video that are 4 years old or 1 year old on the same channel, so they will come back.
Yeah.
So that's an interesting thing I'm thinking.
So what I would probably structure this outreach campaign to these YouTubers, the first, say, 2 messages would say, we have this affiliate program for YouTubers in XYZ space. Can we send you details? That's sort of how I would approach this.
Yeah, or do you work with X way,
even
whatever you want to position your
audience, yeah,
audience, yeah, and then come back.
Brilliant. And
should we send you some details or like something like that?
And then if that didn't work, I would come back and say like flat out sponsorship. Like, okay, we're prepared to pay X for so many followers that you have that you can get this in front of.
Yeah.
That's nice, because then if the first approach, the affiliate, the best case doesn't happen, then you can just put upfront money to sponsor. And yeah, I can imagine that being pretty good. Do you have anything else for the list side? I'm out of ideas. That was kind of my one trick.
Yeah, with this side, it's pretty hard to move the needle, as I said. Or you have some guy, an intern working for 4 years trying to actually do this outreach 1% at a time. No, I think at some point, they're going to move to TV, advertisement, or straight ads or stuff like that. But
yeah, right.
Not my domain, not
billboards. Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, I'm fine to switch over now to the seller side of things to get more SaaS companies to put their products on AppSumo.
All right.
All right, Jeremy. Well,
what do you get?
Since I'm afraid you're going to one-up me, I'm going to go first.
Go for it.
Yeah.
I probably won't.
Yeah. Outshine me. Let's see. Okay. I just remember we don't have a secret word for this episode, which shame on us.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyways, let's think about who we would first just like to bring into our world here for AppSumo. So I imagine these are new bootstrapped software companies. So all 3 of those are filters I would use. Does it have to be bootstrapped? That's probably the most gray area.
I think the idea of bootstrap is an interesting one in a sense that it positioned the product into something that usually didn't spend a lot of money to get publicity one way or another. So technically, I would say that if they're bootstrapped, they're lesser known, and so that could be a good idea for them to add their value, like, saying like, hey, I know you guys are struggling to get known. How about we, just put you in front of, a million, entrepreneurs or whatever that would buy your product.
And I'm thinking this is an added benefit because if you're not bootstrapped, if you have investment, then the AppSumo pitch is a little bit less enticing. It is sort of an influx of cash primarily.
When they achieve the end of the runaway money, maybe. Yeah, can we get it done yesterday?
Sure. Yeah, so that's why I would only consider bootstrapped software companies. Okay, so I think we're both on the same page there. Now, how would I go about building this list? And I'm the list building nerd, so I thought about this a little bit more than I probably should have, but I would use Product Hunt in order to find my new software companies. It also is a place where you might find early adapters. So even before a company may get a lot of publicity or even set up a proper, LinkedIn company page, they will probably be on Product Hunt. And if they're not, I kind of think they're too early for an AppSumo deal. You need to have some track record there. I would also look at software review sites like Capterra or G2 Crowd, and I would just set up some kind of a weekly scrape of newly added companies that have a couple great reviews. And then finally, in categories that we've already run successful campaigns for. And that's important because the way I would do outreach is by saying, hey, look what we did for another company in your vertical that was also bootstrapped. They got these many tens of thousands of dollars and new users to start off their new company. And so using those filters to set up that campaign nicely.
Yeah, I like it. I like it. In a similar way, I guess the game here is to really find out something before it, starts shining. So I probably do it in two ways or multiple ways, but here are two that jumps to my mind. The first one is, look, you probably have an army of like 800,000 people who are hungry for new products. Why not just ask them or survey them, like, what is some of the unusual software that you used recently that you find awesome? And, there you go. Boom, got a list probably of some stuff. You can send this list every quarter or twice a year. And that could actually bring or surface some really good tool that you didn't necessarily pay attention to. But more importantly, if that tools come back to the surface from your own group, there's a chance that people in the same group will also be interested in and buy it. A good example will be the rise of Notion, for example. Lots of people really like Notion. Well, there's chances that, similar profile will buy the similar thing. So there's a chance that suddenly if you put it on the spotlight and accelerate their growth or how you want to sell it or position AppSumo, then they may be interested and it's like a win-win for everyone, right? So that's one thing I will do. I will use my own user as,
how would you filter that? Let's say two people recommended an obscure app. Yeah, they're interested in it, but would you also put them through another round where you vet that they're actually ready for this kind of promotion? How would you do that?
So that's a great question. I think there are two-part answers because on one side, you need to make sure you have process to vet any new suggestion that comes in anyway, right? That is, maybe it's an introductory call with the founder or whoever is on technical side. You just, just ask some basic questions and I don't know what their process is. And on the other side would be maybe you have a beta group. Maybe you grab the people who actually purchase the most item on AppSumo and you say like, great guys, you've been, you come to a super inner circle kind of thing. You can now get to choose or give your opinion onto all new product before everyone knows.
Right.
It's a sort of like thing like that.
So, or maybe you just segment that list of 800,000 people and say, anybody who purchased our Notion deal would be really interested in this obscure Notion-y type app. And we're only going to promote it to them.
That sounds Google now. That sounds Google and AI and Spotify recommendation of the next music you're gonna kind of thing.
Right. But at least you know that they're gonna be receptive to it and probably very likely to purchase. The only caveat there is you may have to tell this seller that you're gonna put them on a beta list first, and if it works, then you roll them out to 800,000.
Well, you have to think that I'm not sure if they do that, but they probably are a lot of things that are applicable to their business as a double-sided market like Airbnb and, all those sort of like big market that do a lot of research as to, or Spotify as well, that do a lot of research as to my user like that. So the other one will also like that. I don't know if they're going that far or if they're just like, hey, we found a cool product. Let's market it to our group. But I think that even though it may not look like a double-sided market, I think that's really what it is. Okay. And there are a lot of things that could potentially be used. Anyway.
Okay.
So in terms of segmenting and,
yeah. So I have another point of this. So since we're doing a growth chat on an established company, it's always a good idea to take advantage of the data that company has, because as a startup, you won't be able to do what I'm about to describe. But probably instead of just going to Product Hunt and finding the next hot thing, I would look at the last 50 deals, last 100 deals that were ran and see which one went crazy, which top 3 categories, right? Categories is your audience currently starving for because they're making more money based on the sales, right? So I might just say, you know what, we're only going to focus on CRMs this week because for whatever reason, that's what our list is just gobbling up right now, and letting that data steer who we bring into the fold. So maybe I would be a lot more receptive if, let's say, CRMs, Jeremy, were really hot right now. If I had a user say, hey, this CRM is pretty cool, I'm using it, I may just say, you know what, we're going to run with it, because assuming they're not unable to handle the volume, they might be, but we'll have a really quick filter, but then just ramp them up because we know that this is something that's going to resonate based on our previous sales. That maybe is all the data analysis they need. They may not need an engine like that, or even segmenting. Well, yeah. What do you think?
Yeah, fair. We probably don't know until we actually run the business ourselves, and have all the data. But it's definitely another avenue to research. The other thing I was thinking, and we're still talking about like discovering new app, right? We're not talking, I didn't see them like doing a lifetime deal on Pipedrive, for example, or very well-established products. So I'm still going under the assumption. Yeah, exactly. I'm still going under the assumption that they need to bring people at the beginning to sort of like give them like a big boost to start. And that's probably not as interesting for other people. I don't know. I'm assuming that. And so the other thing will be like, okay, where can I find new products? So you're mentioning Product Hunt. I've been mentioning your own user, but there is a third one as well, is people whose job it is to actually find new thing. So I'm thinking specifically podcasters who interview new founders, like upcoming founders or like new product founders. I'll just piggyback on them and subscribe to their channel. And whenever they interview like a new guy who reached like 10K a month or 20K a month, well, let's put it on a watch list, and either actually just investigate or review this watch list every 3 months to see like, where is that product? That could have happened with Baremetric, for example. Because those things, it's never an overnight success. It takes some time. So you could think like, all right, guys, they are approximately probably like 6 months away from what is interesting. Maybe we're going to start either curating the relationship instead of just coming once they're done and send blasting an email like they did for me, for example. You could curate this relationship first. And if you go for, indie channel, for example, indie interviewing, things like that.
Right. So at this level, they may consider finding this influencer who's always in front of new software companies and just hiring them, saying, hey, look, we'll give you a full-time position to do this under our brand. You keep interviewing brands, we'll keep content for our listeners, but we're going to, basically bring this relationship a couple steps further so that we can have a tighter grip on what's new in software.
I like that, especially because the people doing that are probably very passionate about that too. So they may actually match their DNA,
And I know an example of this happening. There was like a surfboard review YouTube channel, and he just made like hundreds of videos, really high quality. And then Firewire Surfboards ended up just giving him a full-time job in order to keep doing these like surfboard reviews that ended up sending him a lot of customers. So it's not a new idea, but at that level they could,
Or a gum company that's, enables someone to keep traveling the world by publishing, the advertisements on each of the videos.
Right, exactly. Right.
That's funny.
Yeah, I knew a guy who was sponsored by Moleskine.
Nice.
And all he had to do was do like sketches, and that funded he'd sketch around the world, and he was like the Moleskine sketcher guy.
Love it. Absolutely love it.
Yeah.
I got a third idea for them to find out new startups or new products potentially. If you think about it, there are places where the whole success revolve around finding new ideas that could actually create business. So what I'm thinking, and that may be a bit too involved, but again, it could come back to the watch list thing, is you basically build a relationship by doing outreach to accelerators, incubators, stuff like that, to sort of like being able to scout early project that have potential. Like you could have got, Zapier and stuff like that started like that pretty much, or Buffer. And then at this stage, either you build a relationship with the incubator and you just basically the value proposition is like, hey, if we like a product, we can promote the shit out of it and, get it trying. And then you could spawn a small, AppSumo brand that is like Discovery or like, I don't know, like Mini Sumo or whatever, which is basically like, hey, those products are not fully baked yet, but you could, get, you could signal, either beta or signal your interest by purchasing a lifetime, license to it. And if you could do like even a Groupon, maybe I'm going too far, but you could even do a Groupon deal, which is like, if we don't get 5,000 to purchase this deal, this lifetime offer, then there is no offer. Right. And so that way that helps people to make sure that, okay, if it succeeds, at least they have enough runaway to actually carry on their business. And it proves that there is, demand in that market, where if you only get like 200, maybe like, sorry guys, this is not enough. We're going to close the deal because, at the end of the day, there's a high chance that the company will just, collapse because there's no demand in the market.
And you could get in front of those bleeding edge companies by partnering with an incubator, for example.
Right? Exactly. And I think it's a good place to be, because basically the sooner they are in the gateway, drug gateway, the better it is for them, because they can get better deals, because people are not as, business savvy. They don't have an established stuff. Yeah. So they will depend a lot on, and they will add basically a lot of value to the entrepreneur and the people doing the business.
Yeah, it's a great point. I think we've unpacked quite a bit here.
Jack, can I ask you a question?
Ask away.
How would you actually craft the outreach email to those incubators? What value proposition will you do?
Yeah, so
they're the middleman in a sense, right?
Yeah, I would say make your, what would you call them? Incubatees. Make your incubatees have a higher success rate, because we'll step in and actually just promote the crap out of the one you choose. And I think it's playing to their interest, where they want their incubatees to do well.
How about reducing their risk by knowing very quickly if a product's going to work or not?
Right. Yeah. And that you'd have to get a little bit creative and do this like mini sumo thing, right? Because it's a testing phase, but that's really what they're trying to do in an incubator, right? Like validate it, grow it, get their first significant user base. Is probably it. I'm not aware enough of what the incubator is getting out of it.
It depends. Some are actually taking an equity share in the companies.
Right.
So that will basically increase the value of the company, overnight, which is probably something they would appreciate. Some others just get paid for the course, and therefore there's probably not so much of an incentive. It really depends.
It doesn't sound too far off from the pitch of like, we can help your company get lots of cash and new users. You would just have to modify it for what the incubator cares about, which is probably getting their chosen companies a lot more custom. It's almost like they would take the load off that incubator. It's like, okay, look, just as long as they're geared up and have the structure for it, we can just, they want 10,000 users. Okay. We've had it.
We can do that.
But it would have to be
users
tailored.
Do you want?
Right. It'd have to be tailored to that kind of tool, because I think a case study will nail this point home, as opposed to the incubator may not care that you have 800,000 on your list, but they may care that this is what you were able to do for another brand new type of company. What they're there for at the end of the day.
Well, I think AppSumo's got their share of initiatives for 2021 if they want to follow what we've been highlighting.
And the nice thing is all of the techniques that we mentioned, they don't require a lot of volume sending. These are like low volume outreach campaigns. That should move the needle on the 800.
Influencer could be, and so can the incubator. But you're right, having 200 a week is definitely a good size.
Right. Because you'd be reaching out to the like VIP list, the ones on that have access to the 10,000 kind of. But yeah, Jeremy, I think you knocked it out of the park. Good cast, man.
Yeah, good cast, Jack.
And if you want more, we have a course. Do you know this? Not everybody does.
That's true.
Cold email outreach masterclass. We teach everything we know and are learning about cold email. Check it out today. Course.quickmail.io.
Yes, course.quickmail.io. And we see you there.
See you there.